It's considered the benchmark, or at least it was, until first the BMW 7 Series, then the Jaguar XJ, and finally the latest generation of the Audi A8 over the past few years changed the paradigm. But now the S-Class from Mercedes-Benz seems poised to take back the crown.
Now the S-Class qualifies as the flagship of the Mercedes-Benz range, not just here in India, but anywhere in the world. Now the last car was very popular, and in fact here in India in this segment it was pretty much on top. But when you looked at it, it looked heavy, it looked bulbous, it looked big. This one, not at all boat-like, is it? And that's primarily because of the kind of new design language you're seeing across Mercedes-Benz cars. There's a lot more agility that's implied in the design. And you know what? The last car had this huge wheel arch here. It was a design signature for the S-Class. It got accentuated because in the long wheelbase, especially here in India, this part of the car just seemed huge. That's gone away. So that's part of the reason why the car looks better. And this sloping coupe roofline, well, that definitely helps too. This character line business has really caught on, right? I think every second manufacturer wants to put in a little sharp crease here along the side. It does help. It gives the car a sense of speed, even when it's standing still. In the face is where you really start to see what's happening right now with Mercedes-Benz. You know, this is one company that really didn't know what to do when it came to LED lighting. They knew they had to have some sort of an LED daytime running light signature. Finally, the designers have got it right. It is this element, nice sharp line. Some people like to call it almost eyebrow-like. Started with what you saw very sharply happening with the A-Class. Now all the cars seem to get it. And on the S-Class too, it works. It's a huge grille. The car does tend to look a little bit disproportionate in terms of just the elements. The headlamp is big, the grille is big. But then as you come around and you start to see just the sheer size of this car, all of that comes together.
Yes, it looks like $1 million, but does it do more than just looking pretty standing still? It's also fast and handles very well. And why not? This is supposed to be the car that represents everything that's new and cutting edge from the boys at Stuttgart. The 455 bhp V8 is a beast of a unit and has oodles of torque too, but it's mated very smartly to the 7G-tronic Plus gearbox, making power delivery quick and effortless. India gets the S500 as an import-only model for starters, but there will be subsequent variants which may include the S350 diesel.
Now the first thing that stayed with me on this whole experience, the first impression as well as a sort of a sustained sort of an impression that stayed with me, is that this car doesn't feel as heavy or as big or as bulky as its predecessor. Now a lot of the other cars in the segment do have this feeling of being a little bit heavy, and you know, you get a sense of the kind of bulk that's pulling along with you. Not so on the new S-Class, and that I think is pretty remarkable. Most people who buy this car aren't going to drive it, but their drivers will certainly be very happy because the car feels nice and agile. You go through a little twisty ghat section, nice flat highway, higher speeds, whatever. Either way, you don't feel that you're driving such a wide, such a long car. It has a nice athletic feel to it, and to me, that is a huge, huge plus.
So it's surprisingly nimble and handles way better than its predecessor. I must remind you that this is the long wheelbase car, folks, which means it's not really trying to be very tight in its handling. So the fact that it delivers is a great little bonus, although I would have always preferred the regular wheelbase car. And also a slightly stiffer feel, but the airmatic suspension provides a very comfortable ride, and that's the kind that buyers here would appreciate. But who am I kidding? When you talk about that buyer, well, they want to know how the car pampers and not how it corners. The visual appeal with those LED signature lights and the ample expanse gets established at first glance. But step inside and it's a whole different ball game with this new car.
Now because the buyer is going to primarily spend all their time back here, I will begin at the back. It is the lap of luxury. You've got two individual seats, they have controls, they can recline, and you know what? There's much more that they can do. I'll tell you that in a second. There's some storage back here. You can opt for an optional cooler, remember. There's a huge storage bin here too. It also gives you access to a table that folds out, and well, You can use your laptop on it or whatever you want to do. And I found another little goodie in here. That's a remote control that helps me just keep everything at the palm of my hand right here at the back. So the AC controls, the multimedia controls, and the seat controls, all of that is possible from this remote. You just switch to left, and then, well, in this case I'm going to say car. Owner's manual is one thing I can see. Besides that, seat settings as well. So let me show you the thing which I found rather interesting. Seat settings, and in we go. There's lumbar support that you can adjust, and then there's the massage function. That's right, there's all sorts of different, in fact, let me show you this. There's, there you go, massage, and you've got 6 different kinds of massage that you can actually opt for.
Okay, I got over that very quickly, but most would love that feature. There's also the rear seat configuration control called Chauffeur Assist, which lets you fold up the front passenger seat and really stretch your legs, complete with a pop-out footrest. Totally sick, right? Of course, there's a lot more. Panoramic sunroof, the 3D Burmester sound system, which has 24 speakers including 9 tweeters. There's a bunch of exterior cameras, and that also includes a night vision infrared camera, parking assist, 8 airbags, and loads more.
Now, virtual clusters are becoming pretty much the norm. So you've got a virtual cluster here, lots of information on that. Won't bore you with the details because all those systems and all those functions you can think of, they're in here. It's a nice 2-spoke steering wheel, has a nice classical look to it. Mercedes-Benz, also written in a old style font. The whole thing sort of works. It looks attractive. There's a good use of leather, metal and wood, and the colors, all of that also coming together pretty well. Neatly tucked away all these buttons which control not just the climate control system but also the defogger and the menu for the big screen. You've got the huge multimedia setup down here as well, lots of buttons here, and of course you can also switch from sport to comfort mode. All of that very similar to the earlier cars, so I won't get into that. But what you do now have is a little gimmick which I think some buyers will like. You can see a little bit of a red hue around this entire dash. There's a floating sort of a feel to this whole screen, and that's because you can change the ambient lighting. So it's not just here behind the screen, it's also here behind the speakers, down here in the dash, all the way down into the footwell, both in the rear and the front, and also up in the roof. So you get these little elements of color that just add a little, maybe a little bit of presence. There you go, on my hand you can see it's red. I am now going to change it though, so let's go to the screen, pick vehicle, and there you got the car. There's time, there's owner's manual, parental control. That's interesting. You can actually lock off some of the multimedia features, especially for your kids. Consumption, which tells you, of course, how efficiently you're driving. There are cameras all around the car that gives you curb views and reverse views as well. And then the seat settings, which we've already seen something of that in the rear. And then you got the vehicle settings. So let's go in there. Car moves forward on the screen, and there you go. Ambient lighting, color, it's already on red, and you can go to sunset orange, you can go to morning white, daylight white, moonlight blue, that's nice and sharp and different looking as well, twilight purple, and finally dawn red, which is, well, pink I guess. But it's interesting. I mean, not something I would have expected on the S-Class, but some of the other cars like the Range Rovers and the Jaguars, they're making this kind of thing popular. So why not throw it in here as well for good measure?
So that may not be the clincher, though it's a nice little gimmick. Mercedes-Benz says that it's already sold the first shipment of the 125 units of the S500, and so now it's thinking of another batch of imports before beginning local assembly for the other variants that we talked about, which will happen at the plant in Pune. The flagship S500 is priced at 1,57.5 lakh rupees, ex-showroom Delhi. Subsequent variants are likely to be priced closer to the 1 crore rupee mark.